guys, Amber Amethyst here. So today I'll be counting down my top 13 favorite Gravity Falls episodes along with a few honorable mentions. And yes, I did do this video about 2 months ago, but it ended up being almost an hour long. So I'm redoing it, condensing it. So I'm now doing an in-depth review of each episode individually. I don't have to go into as much detail here, so I'll just give you a quick reason for why each of these episodes are my favorite. And so we'll go ahead and get started with a few honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is Boys Crazy, and the main reason I have it on here, why it's not really one of my favorite episodes, it is the first one I ever watched. I found it pretty funny. I found it humorous. I like the whole mystery with Robbie and the CD, and still wondering how he got that or made that CD. I also really like the song Cray Cray. I thought it was really catchy. Second honorable mention is Dipper versus Manliness. I know this is not a very popular episode, but I personally like it. I like the whole message of, finding out who you are, and being a man or a woman pretty much means, standing up for what you believe, not having to follow the crowd. And of course the Sue Stan moments in the episode were incredibly cute. So of course I ship Lazy Susan and Grunkle Stan, so I did like that element in the episode. Honorable mention number 3 is Fight Fighters. I like all the references to the old arcade video games they have in there, as well as the animation used for Rumble, as well as the message of, having to face your own problems, which Dipper does learn in that episode. Honorable mention number 4 is the Stan cheering candidate. This is actually becoming one that I'm actually watching a lot more recently, seeing how Dipper and Mabel pretty much know that Stan is not going to win on his own, but knowing that they have to do pretty much anything they can to keep Bud from winning, because they know there's something suspicious going on with that. It also has a really good cliffhanger ending. You wonder where it's going to go from here. Stan also had a pretty badass moment in that episode. I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but it was quite a memorable moment for Stan, and wanted him the respect of pretty much everyone in town. And last honorable mention, and those of you who have seen my previous video might be thinking, what? But that is Double Dipper. This one is no longer in the top 13 because it's another episode that I actually feel does deserve the spot in that list more. We'll get to that when we get to that, but I still do like the episode Double Dipper. The clones are hilarious, how they're exact replicas of Dipper. I do like the whole, Dipper finding out just to be himself, like he's trying to overcomplicate everything to win Wendy, when all he pretty much has to do is just be himself. And I do like the introduction of one of my favorite characters, Pacifica, who has her first appearance in this episode. So yes, but it's still a great episode. It is no longer in the top 13. With all the honorable mentions out of the way, let's go ahead and focus on the actual top 13 episodes, and we'll start with number 13, and that is The Last Mabelcorn. I really still like the unicorns in here. They're very original, very different from what you normally see with unicorns. When you usually think of unicorns, you think, oh, pure and sweet and happy and friendship is magic and all of that, but not Celestabelle. She's very rude. She's not very nice. I also like the fact that we actually do have an episode where it just focuses on the 4 main girls in the show, as well as Mabel's way of handling things versus Wendy's way. And like Mabel's way was just not getting her way. Celestabelle has pretty much told her she's a horrible person. Wendy takes offense to this, and she's like, okay, we're going to do things my way now. Mabel pretty much questioning her own morality and what morality in general, because she's also growing up, so she's finding out that everything is not always black and white. They're like morality itself. She even says morality is relative. But what I really like about this episode, even more than the whole thing with the girls, is we find out more about Ford and his past relationship with Bill, his past friendship. We find out how he too was tricked by Bill, and pretty much that whole mystery is finally resolved. Great confrontation between him and Dipper. So yeah, overall very good, solid episode. Okay, number 12, and this one has taken quite a plummet from the last time, and this is Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. So I'm starting to like a couple more episodes a little better. This one's now number 12 instead of number 7 as it was last time. Still a great episode, really a good Ford episode. Like, we just got introduced to him 2 episodes before. We have a backstory in the previous episode, but in this one we finally get to actually see him as a person, see him interact with Dipper, and how they share this love for a a board game, and it's nice to see them bonding. It's really sweet. I like all the nerd and geek references in this episode, and how the actual gameplay itself sounds fun. The joke they have towards the 90s and how the 90s tried to make everything cool and rad. That was pretty clever, funny joke. I also like that Stan and Mabel find out that you don't have to be a total geek to enjoy these kind of activities. They both find out that they too can find something enjoyable in it. That Stan finally does give the kids permission to hang out with Ford. We thought maybe, even though he is dangerous, you know, hey, he's still part of the family. We also have some funny fourth wall jokes with the detective, the show making fun of itself, such as we're saying, at least I'm not all keyed up to watch a kid's show, and Stan says, I'll have you know this kid's show has a great mystery element and a lot of adult jokes that go way over a kid's head, clearly referencing Gravity Falls itself. And then pretty much the joke at the end about the detective having a twin brother, again making fun of itself. And I do like the fact this show can make fun of itself. And of course we have the ending when Ford lets Dipper in a little secret about the rift. This also, you get to see more of this drifting apart of Dipper and Mabel. The fact that he's trusting Dipper with this secret, but tells him, don't tell your sister, because we can't trust her. Somewhat possible parallel of what happened to the older twins, now with the younger ones. So favorite episode number 11 is Into the Bunker. This is the second episode of season 2. I really like this one. It's a great mystery and adventure episode. And I really like this has fantastic character growth for Wendy. Before then, I didn't really care too much for her character. It wasn't really until this episode that I really came to respect her as a character. The whole subplot with Dipper and Wendy is finally resolved. I'm not going to go to spoil how that happened for those who haven't seen the episode, but it finally does. Dipper's secret does come out in the open, and how Wendy handles the situation, you know, she's very nice about it. That's another reason I can like her as a character, is because of the fact just how nice and kind and considerate of her friends' feelings she was. I really respect her a lot for that. Shapeshifter is an excellent antagonist in this episode. Not as scary as Bill, but pretty scary. Like, he has some really creepy moments when he does the Dipper and Mabel fused monster. That was some nightmare fuel itself. And even in Journal 3, Ford pretty much mentions just how dangerous of a creature a shapeshifter is, and it is kind of a shame that he only got screen time in this episode, because I think he would have been quite a foe. Like, if he would have came back in Ridmageddon, that would have been pretty cool. So number 10 is Seuss and the Real Girl. I've actually, of multiple watches of this one, I've started to like this one a lot more. It's a good look at Seuss's life outside the Mystery Shack. Also, I love the character of Giffany. She is a great antagonist. Also a good nod to the yandere anime characters that she's clearly based off of. She's a good foil to Melody, who's also introduced in this episode, and Giffany has some terrifying moments in here. She's really scared with the whole Five Nights at Freddy's vibe we have here, even though technically what I read is that Five Nights at Freddy's and this episode were like released a month apart, and it was actually not a reference to Five Nights at Freddy's. It just so happened coincidentally that these two just had so many similarities. It was actually supposed to be just a parody of Chuck E. Cheese. I also like the character of Melody, who's introduced, a real girl who Seuss falls in love with, and I'm actually quite disappointed that she only gets seen two more times after this episode, and they're very, very short appearances. I would have liked to see more of her, because she was a good character. Favorite episode number 9 is The Inconveniencing, and this is my most rewatched season 1 episode. I really like this one. I like the whole haunted store vibe. It has like a really scary atmosphere. Quite some creepy imagery in here, like the skeletons and the old cereal box, and just it's also the episode we introduced to all the other teenagers, become recurring characters throughout. The ghosts are quite interesting funny antagonists when you find out their motive and how Dipper's able to save the day, and it ties into the message of not rushing childhood and being yourself. And there are some hilarious Stan moments back at the shack. But yeah, I really do like this episode. Great horror feel to it. Still some really funny moments. Stan watching the TV, watching Duchess approves. So yeah, great episode. Favorite episode number 8 is Dreamscapers. This is the episode that introduces us to the show's main antagonist, Bill. I really appreciate that they did not introduce the show's main villain until almost at the very end of the first season. Gives him more mystery, and not seeing him so recently, and then going back and seeing glimpses of him actually throughout the season 1. You're just not knowing who he is. This is also the episode where I feel the show takes a darker turn. Like before this episode, there were some scary moments, some adult jokes, some dark moments, but for the most part it was very lighthearted and funny, more Disney friendly, which you would think of a Disney show for an older audience. But this is the episode where it does take a darker turn, mainly thanks to Bill. The Mindscape is creative and it is interesting. Look into someone's mind. We learn a lot about Stan's early life and his affection for the children, why he may not actually show it. You know, he does actually love them. Dipper actually gets to see this through Stan's mind himself. So while he may not actually, express it or show it to them directly, he actually does get to see firsthand that his great uncle does love him and cares for him very much. And this has a great ending and a fantastic cliffhanger for the upcoming season finale. Yeah, great episode. Introduction to the main antagonists, who we get very little information about. Still see he's quite powerful, but very little information about, and great lead up into the final episode of the season. Episode number 7, and this is actually the one that kicked Double Dipper out of the top 13, and that of course is Summerween. And watching the episode a little more, it was originally an honorable mention, but the more I watched it, the more I came to really enjoy this episode so much. And I was debating, do I want to kick out Double Dipper or Last Maple Corn, but Last Maple Corn I did feel had more to do with the plot itself, so I had to keep that one. Summerween has a great Halloween atmosphere. Like, even though it's technically not Halloween, this one felt much more Halloween than a lot of other Halloween specials because it is everywhere in this episode. I love the joke of the looser candy. Mr. Adequate Bar having my favorite. Like, I was laughing so hard about that joke the first time I saw it. And the Summerween Trickster is an intimidating and interesting character, very original. I like his overall design, both versions of him, and how they're able to save the day. And it's also important to note that this is the first time in the series where we actually see Mabel's fear of, 1, growing up, and 2, her and Dipper drifting apart. This is something that's going to be explored in greater detail later in the second season. This is the first time it is ever mentioned. So for those reasons, this is now one of my 13 favorite episodes, the Summerween. Okay, now moving on to the Superior 6, and these are like my top 6 favorite episodes, and I don't think they're ever going to change. They may change in order, but these 6 will always be my top 6. On to number 6 is, of course, Karaoke. This was the first episode of the second season after waiting a very long time. What an episode it was. Love Patrol Alpha taking over Midnight Song. Very catchy. Zombies are terrifying. Reminding yourself again, this is a Disney show for children, but it does not shy away from the horror, and some of these zombies are quite nightmare fuel. The Sue zombie is hilarious. He actually is bitten, and it's just so funny because it's still the same person. Seuss's personality is there. It's just in zombie form, like how he's like, I think I'm going to eat your brains. Yay your name. Seeing some yay faces over here. How he's able to turn off the power. He sits down to watch a TV show and he doesn't get up because he gets interested in the TV show. Pretty funny stuff. This episode has my absolute favorite moment in Gravity Falls, as well as the most badass Stan moment ever when he takes down the zombies. Just seeing him punching them out, with the brass knuckles, just quite a moment for him. He gets so many big reveals in this episode. I don't want to spoil too many, but we find out that Stan is hiding a huge secret. We find out about the blacklight, and we find out that, spoiler, Stan knew all along about the paranormal of this town. He's been trying to hide it, but it's finally brought to light, and he has to admit it, and he's known all along. This was a great episode to introduce season 2. Alright, episode number 5, and again, I was actually really considering combining 4 and 5, just so I could possibly keep Double Dipper in the top 13 if they were combined at spot 4, but that'd be cheating, so I couldn't. Episode 5 is A Tale of Two Stans, and again, this is still the most feelsy episode. Like, my heart broke so many times in this episode watching, seeing Ford and Stan's past, just how happy they were as kids, and how one little mistake ruined that. It's just really heartbreaking. I want to just grab both and say, just hug. And Mabel's trying to get them to hug them out. You just want them to hug it out because, you know, it's time to let this grudge go. Backstory for both these characters. The character who just introduced Ford, as well as the character we've known from the beginning, but he's still been very mysterious, Stan. Just watching how they've been separated for 10 years. As soon as they get back together, what happens? They fight, which just leads to even more tragedy as the scene progresses. And even when they're finally reunited after 30 years, what happens? They fight. And it's just like, yo, stop being stubborn old men and just make up already. But according to the plot, that can't happen. It's also good to see the different time periods. We saw some of the 60s, some of the 70s, also 80s Gravity Falls. So yeah, it was good to see these different time periods. Maybe that was just me, but I thought it was interesting to see how, just to see how authentic it was to the time it was representing. Steve has some really funny jokes in here, such as the fourth wall fanfiction joke, as well as the joke about, oh my gosh, I was so spellbound by your tale, I forgot about those agents upstairs, which was very true of the audience as well. And we also see more of Mabel's fear of her and Dipper falling apart like their uncles. So a very emotional episode, but one that I really do enjoy. Episode number 4 is Sock Opera. Dipper is trying to crack the code of the laptop, while Mabel falls in love with the puppeteer. She's trying to impress him with her puppet show. They're both having their obsession. It's also the episode where Bill returns. Whoops. He tricks Dipper, telling him, you know, I can help you if you just give me a puppet. And he twists the word puppet to make Dipper give up his body, so he ends up possessing Dipper, and it is quite, Bill is scary crazy in this episode. The possession itself, what he does when he does possess Dipper's body, just how reckless he is, the scene in the car, just the way that whole line is delivered of, how can you stop me if you don't exist? Very creepy moment. Also the head that's always screaming. Also Dipper's obsession, this episode is quite disturbing. The puppet show, what I do find interesting about this episode is while Mabel has had many selfish moments throughout the series, this is the episode where she's finally called out for. And Bill is the one who calls her out of all people. First he does it to Dipper, saying, you know, what's your sister done for you lately? And then when he finally has his confrontation with Mabel, he pretty much points out, you know, you had no problem taking this journal for yourself, calling her selfish, and he finally, I just find it strange that of all people, Bill is the one who calls her out for it. And it's finally Mabel's turn to make the right decision and sacrifice, which leads to this very hilarious Ave Maria scene, and where she has to blow up the puppets, and Gabe's expression is hilarious. He's just so horrified. I can't even do it the way he did it. It was just so funny. Great episode. My 4th favorite. Here, episode number 3 is Society of the Blind Eye, and this is the McGucket episode. In this episode, we find out that a seemingly minor character, Fiddleford McGucket, actually does play an integral role in the show as a whole. As we find out that he was the author's assistant. They find a secret society hidden in the town who's been going around erasing the people's minds as they encounter the supernatural. They have some clever jokes and writing, such as, don't you feel guilty about what happened to McGucket, and the leader of the sect says yes, and he zaps himself with the memory gun. He's like, but not anymore. And starts the episode, we're introduced to the memory gun, which is a gun that you press to your head and it can delete certain memories. The weapon will be used a little more out throughout the series, but this is the first time it was actually introduced. And I find it kind of ironic that you find out that, spoiler, McGucket was the one who founded the group many years ago. And they don't remember who it is who founded the group. And it's ironic, it's the very person they're fighting. Good message about the importance of having bad memories and learning from them. And lastly, I love the running gag of the Straight Blanchard, like, ridiculous summer rap song throughout the episode. So overall, this was a really good one. Second favorite episode is Northwest Mansion Mystery. I really like this one because, of course, I love the character of Pacifica, and she gets a lot of character development in this episode. We see there's implied abuse through that bell. Like, she's so afraid of the bell disobeying her parents, and which is implied that she was conditioned and abused by that bell throughout her childhood. And this episode, she finally has to make the right choice. So it's a great moment for her, and just see how proud she is when the ghost commends her. And on that same note, the lumberjack ghost is terrifying. Like, we first, how it's implied how he died. Like, you don't actually see his death, his gruesome death on screen. It's heavily implied how he died. Like, even the youngest audience member can tell how he died. How he's just scraping the axe across the floor, slicing apart the floor as he goes. The fact that he was willing to burn everyone in the mansion alive until Pacifica finally stepped up and did what she needed to do. Quite a scary antagonist as well, like all these great antagonists in this series. I really like the implied Pacifica of this episode. It's even mentioned in the journal that at least at one point in this episode, Dipper did form somewhat of a crush on Pacifica, and I think you can also tell by how she reacted when he returned that she felt the same way. I am a Pacifica shipper, so of course I like that about this episode. I also like the subplot with Mabel and her friends, and how they're fighting over Marius, Baron from Austria, and how Candy and Mabel are like, you know, we'll tag team. He'll fall in love with one of us, completely excluding Grinda because they didn't like her flirting style. And who did Marius end up liking? Grinda, of course. And I just thought that was very sweet that he liked her for who she was. This episode also has a really good ending, another great cliffhanger ending. McGucket's freaking out about this countdown, which he thinks might be the apocalypse, and immediately pans to this tapestry of Bill, and it's quite an ominous tapestry. So yeah, that was a wonderful ending. So the haunted house genre is my favorite genre of horror, and I really do like the homage to that type of horror in this episode, which is why it is my second favorite. I'm going to my absolute favorite episode of Gravity Falls, and that of course is Not What He Seems. Overall, this is the best plot episode. It is so fast. Like, all the characters in this episode are just moving. Super fast. Stan's been arrested, and so the twins are rushing to the mystery shack to clear his name. Seuss is rushing to the mystery shack to guard the vending machine because he doesn't want the agents finding out about what's in there. Stan is rushing out of the interrogation room in the police department. It's very fast paced, feels like an action suspense movie, just how it's done. And another thing about this episode that I do like is the fact that it raises the question, what if Stan is a criminal mastermind? And with the fake IDs and him faking his death, feeling the toxic waste, like, we don't know what's going on. I know he's doing something in that basement. We've known that since episode 1, and we don't know what it is. We don't know, at this point, we don't know whose side to be on. We know pretty much nothing. You know, could he even not really be the real Stan? Is he an imposter? Because I guess the entire episode I'm just, you know, glued to the TV, just like, first time watching, like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen next? We see more of his cunning and cleverness in this episode. We see how he uses the anomalies to his advantage, how he uses the taxi as a decoy to lead the police away so he can go back to the shack. It has the best episode climax. Quite a few good climaxes in this series, but this one is the best. seeing them all fight as they're trying to shut down the machine, and Stan's begging them to leave it on, and Dipper's like, how can we even trust you? It's just very suspenseful. I was on the edge of my seat. Even though I've seen this episode 10 plus times, it's still like that last scene is just like so invigorating, so intense, still chilling after knowing what's gonna happen. Also has the intro of one of my favorite characters, and just how he is revealed is just like quite a mind-blown experience. And also, even though this is quite an intense episode, it still has its humor. Seuss's joke about the final countdown, and the whole funny moment at the fast food restaurant after he declares it's time to become a man. Then they serve her hands him his equivalent of a Happy Meal. I thought that was pretty funny. Maybe going into work, and she's all like, going into work, and there's the SWAT team breaking down the door. She's like, or maybe not. Oh, that was pretty funny. The freeze pop joke, when the special ops guy takes the freeze pop and he ends up licking it when the kids are dragged away. And Stan's joke about, I'm alone, I can swear for real. It's just quite funny. So yes, very action-packed episode. Still has its funny moments, has a lot of intense moments, has you questioning Stan altogether, you're not knowing whose side to even be on. So overall, best episode in the series. And this was my condensed version of my top 13 favorite Gravity Falls episodes. Some of them have changed order. Most of them have pretty much stayed the same, but so these are my favorite episodes. Agree or disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. And if you like this video and would like to see more of it, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.